Hello and welcome back to the Digital Marketing Podcast. My name is Kieran Rogers.
I'm Louise Crossley.
And I'm Daniel Rolls.
And today we're talking about privacy.
This is becoming a bigger and bigger kind of issue because in reality, there's lots of technical things that have happened, which we're going to talk about. And there's just a greater awareness of it within the whole kind of consumer thing. So we're all becoming more aware of our privacy. So we need to kind of explore it and think about how it really matters and how it started.
So this all started with iOS, right?
Yeah, so it's one of the things. We had ad blockers within our browsers for a while. More of us been using those. There was some stats recently that said like 50% of people are using ad blockers. So that means you can't get to those people with ads. But then the whole iOS thing happened, which basically, whenever you had an app, it would come up and say, do you want this app to track you across other websites? And it was kind of incredulous, the tone of voice of it. And you went, no, I absolutely don't want that. Now, what that's really happening is that's Apple positioning itself as the privacy platform, which is one thing. But also, it's kind of shutting data off from Google and Facebook and all these people that are using this stuff to target you. So that's increased the awareness of all this cross-checking that was kind of going on. So I think that was a really important kind of stage of it as well.
Yeah.
And I think from that point of view, we've all become more aware. So that's kind of the first step. And then there've been some other things that have kind of happened as well.
It was a big kind of watershed moment of the whole Facebook Cambridge Analytica.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's a very good point.
Really triggered that. I think, from my perspective, it's just constantly ramping up. But it's because, unfortunately, marketers do ruin everything because of our obsession with data and tracking people. And I suppose you go back to the early days of the whole Web 2.0 revolution. It was very exciting because suddenly you could, remarket to people cross-channel, cross-device. And that we know that's really, really effective. The problem is we've probably gone too far with it because actually the data sets that we're able to now join up result in people having unbridled access to know specifically what you do online. And, that's not right, is it?
No, and I think if you look at the major platforms like Google and like Facebook, they have their business now is building a profile of you and people like you, and then selling access to that, essentially. Now, that's fine. That's the business model. They're not doing anything wrong, but it's just the fact that actually we didn't really know that with open eyes when we went into it. So there's lots of initiatives to try and change that.
I'm just going to add into there, the assumption I think we've often taken is, Apple are doing this to position themselves as, the privacy platform. But actually, I wonder if it's not, their lawyers are concerned about the legal implications if Apple devices, where you as a user, you've signed up and you've agreed to certain terms and conditions, if your device is actually being used to track and stalk you. Yeah. Right. And, some of these privacy things have huge, real life implications. We're quite lucky in the Western world in terms of the freedom that we have. But there are still places in the world where if you follow a certain Facebook page or if you do certain things and the government can track you, you might just disappear. It's that black and white. Like, wait, what? So actually there are really serious implications. It goes well beyond selling more T-shirts or selling more TVs.
Well, even in the current environment, it would be a perfectly possible thing to do to say, if somebody has gone in and keeps looking at content about a certain health condition, which is maybe a chronic condition, I'm not going to offer them insurance. Although they might not even have that. Or I might not offer them access to my holiday because I'm concerned about the risk of them doing that. Or I might look at their previous behavior and say, well, they're connected to some people that I know have done certain things. I'm not going to allow them to stay in my Airbnb or whatever. You could exclude people in a non-direct way. So there are a lot of risks on it. So I think it is important. And I think that's one of the key things is that it's easy to go, it's just privacy for the sake of it, that cookie pop-up that comes up. But actually it is important. And we'll kind of get into that later on because it starts to get into, have I abused that? Do I not trust your brand because of it as well?
And there's email as well. There's a lot of changes within email.
Yeah, so that was a funny one because I didn't even think about this because you've got this whole thing of when you send an email from an email service provider, it has this little tracking pics in it that tells you when that email has been opened, but also their IP address so you can work out where they are. And it was great because we could calculate open rates. But then Apple devices, again, trying to take a lead on this, went, wait a minute, you didn't opt in for that. Right, we're going to block that. Now, the assumption is they block it, you're not going to be able to measure open rates, your open rates will drop. As we've mentioned before, actually happens is they load it for everyone, they cache it, and your open rates go up. And then loads of people are going, oh, it's brilliant, our open rates have gone up. And it's like, no, that's not actually what's happened. So a lot of the email service providers now, what they're doing is compensating for that and calling it adjusted open rate to try and give you something that's a little bit more accurate from that point of view as well. So we've got it happening with apps. We've got ad blockers in our browsers. We've got this email thing happening as well. And then there's some other changes happening as well, which I think Kieran is kind of has been getting into a little bit as well. So the whole kind of browser thing.
Yeah. So it puts fear in my belly, Daniel, this one, because actually I suppose I've always loved tracking. I'm a bit of a measurement nerd. I love to measure everything because actually the more you can measure, the more reliable your data is and the better your assumptions and hypotheses can be. Like as a digital marketer, I feed on that. I think the problem is, as we said, like we've abused this data. It's been used in unpleasant ways. This data has been used to do things to the customer, not for the customer. And that's where it all goes south for me, I think. So there's a couple of things that are happening at the moment. Increasingly, there are browsers out there that are very privacy-centric, and they're getting quite a big adoption. So I don't know if you've come across the Brave browser.
Only since you told me about it.
Yeah, so I've been on a bit of a journey with this because I thought, well, I should try it out. And actually, I made it my default on my phone. And actually, I love it. It's good. It actually gives you a stat on how much time it saved you because it's blocked tons of stuff loading that.
And it tells you how much
it
load
tells
time.
you how many. Yeah. So I think I'm probably saving like 15, 20 minutes a week or so. And I do use my phone quite a bit. That's quite a lot.
Yeah, it's pretty significant.
It's quite significant.
But also, my challenge of this, and this is playing devil's advocate a little bit.
Yeah.
If there is less tracking stuff available, what we're going to find is, for example, if you go to your browser now and you go to private mode, so it can't look at your cookies, the ads you get are all completely based on maybe location, if you've got location switched on, or just like, okay, you're on this website, you must be interested in this stuff. So I'm going to get loads of ads that aren't relevant.
Don't get any ads.
Oh, because you're blocking them all anyway. All right, fine.
It's and that's one of the things. Like,
Problem.
Well, yes and no. Like marketers, I'm sorry, I'm going to be harsh here. I just think they need to grow up and get with them.
But not from a marketing problem. I understand that, it's okay that if I can't show my ads, that's my problem as opposed to, but if I'm a publishing website that's making money from ads and they're all being blocked, that website can't make any money and we have a publishing problem. I have the solution as well. Though.
Go on, come on, hit us with it.
So if suddenly I am something, a website that sells like access to news basically by having loads of ads plastered all over it, and there are quite a few that do that, if I suddenly don't have those, exactly. I mean, and the problem with that route is that I need more and more and more page impressions so that I can have more and more ads. And there's a bit of a race to the bottom if you're not careful because it's like sensationalist news, sidebar of shame, all these kind of shocking stories. The alternative is micropayments. And the only reason this is front of mind because I was speaking about this at a conference last week. At the moment, if I want to charge you 5 pence to access my webpage, I can't do it in any real sensible way because of the fact that the processing fees to do it via a credit card or something else would be higher than the fee I was paying and the whole thing falls apart. Web 3.0, which we've discussed, and he's like, it's not a thing, I'm not interested. But there's some bits in there around blockchain that would allow you to do micropayments.
So Brave have got a platform for that.
Right,
so I can give them credit and they have like approved like publisher partners.
And it would make sense if Google did that and Safari did that and things like Apple as well.
So if I'm consuming content on their website, the more I consume, they get micro payments. And I think that's the way forward because I'm just buying a one-off payment of so many credits. I think it's good. I think, the whole argument with, okay, if we're not able to show the ads, then we can't earn the revenue. You're going to have an element of that anyway, because in a third-party cookieless world, I'm not going to be able to specifically target the right ads at you anyway. So actually, I think that argument kind of goes out the window a little bit from kind of middle of next summer, summer.
We're in a transition period.
Yeah,
right?
we are.
Because we're already seeing that, Google Ads is changing how it's targeting. It's all using machine learning and things like that we spoke about previously. What was the tool? There was a tool, Cookie Status, that I think.
Yeah, so cookiestatus.com is brilliant. It tells you what each of the browsers now do in terms of cookies. And it's a phenomenal resource. I mean, I learned all sorts of things. So I didn't realize there's all sorts of things in there in terms of how Safari works with existing cookies. This is, forgetting anything that Google are going to do with third-party cookies. And Safari is so influential in terms of the number of browsers on it because it's the default browser for all iOS devices.
Just one thing on that as well with Safari. I switched over to Safari for a week away from Chrome The inconvenience was Chrome knows everything that I do, so it remembers everything. Maybe that's a bit of a privacy issue as well. But also, my battery lasts twice as long on Safari. So Chrome absolutely kills my Mac battery. And they have done some work on that, I think. But Safari's been really designed to work on the iOS platform. So that's a little kind of benefit from that as well. Now, the thing I didn't understand was that different browsers and Lightbrave are dealing with cookies differently and storing them for different days. And you told me about this and I was like, really?
They do. And the inference is that it's only going to get worse. And I'm not going to go into the what does what where, because I think we'll just tie ourselves, because it's likely to change. Like check out cookiestatus.com. But actually reading through that, I mean, Firefox blocks all sorts of things and Safari blocks all sorts of things. So I think the longest Safari wouldn't allow a cookie to be set for now is 7 days, not 30.
Wow.
Right. So that's going to skew your data, right? I mean, we're not
Web analytics won't be accurate, will it?
Well, to a certain extent, yeah. It's not going to know like repeat visitors terribly well. And that's why I think things like GA4 are so important, because they've been designed for this post like no third-party cookies world. You know, they're doing things quite differently. And in a way, if you think about, you know, how cookies have worked in the past and how they've been used and how, you know, browsers are now blocking them, you can see, we need a more accurate solution. So GA3, you know, Universal Analytics is just not fit for purpose in the current landscape, in my opinion. And that's why Google are pushing so hard, like brutally hard. I think really, it's like, every time you log in, you get that message to say, just to remind you, you know, we have told you, we've given you fair warning, we gave you a year, but this all gets snowballed. Like it's all going to get sunsetted next summer.
And we've actually got an episode coming up next week on GA4 that will kind of guide you through that stuff. So have a listen out for that as well. Now, this URL parameters bit, I didn't really believe you on this initially, and this was so shocking.
So this all started, and I was running a training course, and I was showing everybody how to use UTM tracking, and I put a URL with UTM tracking into my browser, and it stripped out all my UTM values, and I'm like, what?
So just in case people don't understand the whole...
Yeah, so UTM tracking for me is like the last big bastion of great measurement online, because it's not cookie-based, right? So with a UTM parameter, you're adding a URL parameter onto the web page you're taking someone to. So let's say, Louise, I'm going to make a post to one of our blog posts on Twitter, right? I can, when I put that URL onto Twitter, I can add the UTM parameter onto that URL I'm going to take you through to, and it can specify certain things. So it can say, well, you know, it's a social medium, and the source was Twitter, and the campaign was, you know, our podcast on privacy, you know, that podcast. So you put those values in, and then when you follow that link, you end up on our website, and analytics is looking for these UTM parameters.
It makes no difference to the user experience, does it? But it's just
not at all. It shouldn't do. But I think, you know, now that we've sort of gotten rid of cookies, UTM parameters can be used to track the hell out of people and learn stuff about them. And I think, you know, marketers go, we'll use those. Now, with the UTM code, you know, Google's rules are quite strict on this. You shouldn't put any personally identifiable information in there.
Because you could stick someone's email there, couldn't you?
Yeah,
if you were to cheat, and then Google ends up storing it.
Yeah, and I might choose to use that to track every single individual email. So as long as I've got a unique number in there that references you, Louise, then I know what you've done. And
that can happen quite a lot in sign-up processes as well. So if someone signs up to your website and you send them an email to verify, and they click on that email and it's got their email address in the URL, and then Google has all that information. Yeah. It's easy to be done.
You have to be careful, because actually if you're caught using personal identifiable information and it's in your Google Analytics account, they can actually shut your account down.
Right.
Yeah,
because legitimately do that.
What ends up happening is Google ends up storing information that's personally identifiable by accident, and they're therefore in breach of GDPR and things like that. So they're really strict on it.
But again, if you've got that embedded in a URL, URLs are scrapable. Right, so actually anybody can get that.
Yeah.
So I've included your email address in there. It's like, whoa, that's a huge bad mark. So for that reason, browsers are starting to look at removing like URL parameters, like everything after the question mark. Now, URL parameters are very useful for a lot of websites.
We're on the cusp of this as well, because actually some websites won't function without them, because they've tried not to use cookies. So instead of using cookies, they use URL variables or a combination of the two, which means it will actually break the functionality of some websites. Now, I know they're trying to be kind of careful about this. You were saying to me as well, this is specific to some browsers, but there's also plugins for other browsers.
Lots of plugins do this. So some of the more aggressive ad blockers will do this as well to protect users. privacy. The new beta version of Firefox, just recently out, that actually users can turn this functionality on. So the browser makers are playing with this idea.
Okay.
I think
most people won't know enough to do that.
No, they won't do. But if it's possible as a setting, then it can be put into lots and lots of plugins.
But increasingly,
cat's out of the bag.
Right. And it just means increasingly we're going to have less and less data in our analytics. Yeah.
Well, your whole email measurement heavily relies on this. Like without UTM tracking, you can't really tell where people then go on.
Is it email or is it somewhere else? Yeah, because it will show up as direct traffic, right? So we need a solution to that first of all. So again, interim period, hopefully there'll be a solution for that. But what's because your take on this has always been you're measuring the least wrong thing.
Yeah.
We've all discussed that kind of previously as well. If we have less data and it's less accurate, what's the kind of solution? And do you think there is a change, or do you think we've been over-relying?
I think we've all gotten too lazy.
Okay.
Like it's all too easy. There's always an easy button. I think as my honest opinion, if this plays out the way I think it will, I think a lot of new marketers are going to feel like fish out of water because everything that they know that's worked on various digital platforms. We've seen this already with the catastrophic wave that hit Facebook when iOS removed all of that user data. Suddenly it became really hard for Facebook's algorithms.
Billions of dollars of lost ad revenue.
I know, but for reason, and I've seen this within my own campaigns, it just does not work as well as it used to. So much so, there's a particular channel I follow on Facebook ads. They recently launched a video recommending this new great technique, right, to make Facebook ads work. Do you know what the technique is? Don't add any kind of focus on who it's.
Just do a generic ad that hopefully appeals to everyone.
No, just include everybody.
Oh, great.
It's like
what a step forward.
No, but what they're finding is when you do that, you get more data, and actually the algorithm can work for it. Now that technique will only work for kind of mainstream brands.
Well, that's machine learning to some extent, right? Because it's going, I'll throw it at loads of people, and then I'll use machine learning to work out which are the right people.
Exactly. Exactly. Because I don't have any other data.
I would always argue with that you do a specific ad, it will throw at loads of people, and then it work out what's the right group. And I know that you've learned on a group of people that weren't interested, but hopefully then it's going to be better in the future.
The problem is it doesn't work for a brand like us because we're quite niche.
Yeah.
Digital marketing is quite a niche thing. Like
online digital marketing learning is pretty darn niche. Yeah.
Like if we're Vans or someone like that, that's got much wider appeal. Then okay, this can work, but it's not going to work at that scale. And actually, that was one of the things they pointed out. Like, don't do this if you're niche or a small business. It's not really necessarily going to work for you. But for big national brands, it could.
So there is a solution to this, which is we need to really understand our target audience, and we need to really focus on more of the first-party cookie stuff where we can.
I think we're going back to good old-fashioned marketing. Wow. Like I think all of those things that you learn in a marketing degree, because that was why our industry started in the first place. We didn't have all this tracking. We weren't able to, pinpoint with, sniper accuracy individuals within a specific group. Like we had to hedge our bets. We had to understand the people that we were trying to market to. We had to work out gut feel. Well, where are they likely to be? What are they likely to be looking at? Yeah, and the difference is, when that was a thing throughout the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, we had these very, very broad audiences. Now your audiences are far more fragmented. So there is still a better opportunity there. Like as a digital marketing company, we can hedge our bets on what screens, what platforms.
We know where people will be roughly. Right? What podcasts they'll listen to.
It's all going to have to be a lot broader. A lot broader, and it's all going to have to rely a lot more on artificial intelligence and volume of data, and it's going to make really sharp pinpointing specific segments much harder.
I think it also goes the other way as well. It takes you a step back and go, who's my target audience? Where are they hanging out? Which podcasts, websites, all that kind of stuff. But then we suddenly go, what resonates? And you go back to the Mad Men writing like just one sentence, incredible copy, or come with this amazing ad idea. Yeah. Suddenly, it takes you back to that where creative, alignment with your target audience, the user journey, all of that stuff, that's always been massively important. People used to get massive salaries for sitting there writing a single line of copy because it's so powerful. We've we still know that, I need to get my headline right. Yeah. but we didn't maybe value it to the extent it needs to be valued.
I think this is a real opportunity for some of our listeners. Like, if you are listening to this podcast because you want to get with the latest digital techniques and stuff, because you know that you learned all this at university like 20, 30 years ago. Like, and it's a portion of our audience, that's where they're at. This is all new and daunting. Like, guys, this is a real opportunity for you, because actually all of that you learned, this is something you need to share.
Yeah.
Like, you need to get in amongst the guys and look, there are other ways of doing this. And I don't think it's completely going back to that. It's a hybrid.
Yeah.
There's a hybrid opportunity there. And I don't think everybody's necessarily clocked that. But actually, if you can get that working, then you're going to be ahead of the game, and there's going to be an opportunity there.
This is all a bit disturbing, right? Because this is QR codes and then virtual reality and then privacy all over again, Kieran, because those are the three things you've been going on about for years. And I've been going, yeah. Yeah, whatever. No one cares about QR codes. No one cares about virtuality.
No one cares about privacy.
Yeah, but we're still going to have loads of data, and it's all gradually become true. So
integrity is so important.
I'm going to ask you about the lottery numbers for next week. So the final piece of this, which was something we were discussing, was this whole piece about trust and brand. So this conference I was speaking at last week, which was the Richmond Marketing Directors Forum and the Richmond Communications Directors Forum. So it's all the marketing directors, all the communications directors. If you haven't been to these Richmond events, they're absolutely incredible.
Good event.
Yeah, because we did the podcast.
Really good event.
And I was showing people Web3, and I was showing them, the metaverse, and saying what matters and what doesn't, all that kind of stuff. And we got to artificial intelligence and privacy, and I was basically saying, deep fake. I can deep fake myself now. I can create a 3D avatar. I can recreate my voice using Descript.com. You can't believe anything you see or hear. And actually, everyone's more worried about privacy. And what that basically means is that trust and brand have never been more important. And investing in brand, counterintuitively, worldwide pretty much recession, loads of cost of living crisis concerns, the war in Ukraine causing all sorts of different things going on around the world, climate having an impact on things, really uncertain times and quite, nerve-wracking. That's made people reduce ad spend, which Facebook has felt and loads of others felt as well. There's never been a more important time to invest into your brand, which is really counterintuitive, because you think, well, we've got a brand, we shouldn't be spending any more money when we're trying to cut back. But actually, if you can build trust during a period like this and get people to understand, no, I'm going straight to them. I'm not going to go and browse social media. I'm not going to go to that other website. I'm going to go direct to their website or their podcast or their YouTube channel because I trust them. You've bypassed a lot of this. So it pays a huge dividend potentially.
Traditional PR,
right,
and getting placement in traditional media is huge. I'm working with some really exciting brands, and that's where they're putting probably 60% of their budgets are going into this, and it's working for them. I was blown away by this. Like, one mention in the Sunday Times wipes the floor with 100 endorsements by so-called superstar influencers on TikTok or Instagram. Why? Because actually we trust it a lot more, and actually it has a big portion of our attention. Like, if I read a review of something and somebody serious and senior at the Sunday Times said this product is amazing and I've tested most of them in the market, that has a ripple effect.
It's social proofing, isn't it?
Absolutely. But it's social proofing I trust.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily trust all the TripAdvisor reviews.
Right.
I don't trust the reviews that I see on Amazon, because I know what's going on, and I know that people are given free products to endorse absolute rubbish. It's
comes back to the point, right? Yeah. They've invested in their brand over the years. We've built trusted brand. And when you're looking at their stuff, you're not just browsing through it. You're actually sitting back and taking the time to read it. But
the amazing thing is you only need a mention. You don't even need a link. You don't need the website. You just need a mention. As long as that product is findable,
well, I will pose a question to kind of finish things up a little bit as well, and maybe we can discuss this, because my media consumption and your media consumption and your media consumption are going to be very different, right? So I will read several newspapers, digital versions. Don't read a print paper, but I read digital versions. Do you read a paper?
Not particularly, no.
Right? Do you listen to the radio?
Do you know what? I've just started reading a paper.
Okay.
Like, I've taken out a Times subscription.
Physical or print?
Print. Digital.
Right. Okay.
Just on my phone.
See, and this is the problem that we're seeing, is that from a demographic point of view, I will do that, you'll do that, you're not doing. Maybe, do two people shift as they get older?
Yeah.
There's some questions around that, because actually it's fine saying, and I agree with you, because we've got more spending power as well. Yeah. Oh, I can target those people and they spend loads more money. But actually, if you're targeting a youth audience, and you're not going to get in through those trusted sources that we see as trusted. So that's where some of the challenge comes in. But if you look at a tool like SparkToro, which is Rand Fishkin's kind of tool, it says what podcasts are people listening to, what social channels they're following.
So important.
Same kind of thing,
Like,
right?
Using SparkToro, I could take Louise and I could find a great way of targeting people like Louise.
Yeah, right.
I'm quite convinced I could do that.
Yeah.
And that's why it's such an exciting tool.
Yeah, and it comes back to trust. So I think, look, bottom line, increase awareness in privacy. Lots of technical changes on, as marketers, we need to stay abreast of them. But in reality, come back to the thing you always say, let's not do things to our target audience, just do things for them. And you build that trust, and then you're more likely to get those people. If you've got any points to make on this, please get in contact as normal, targetinternet.com/podcast. You can get in contact, you get the latest episodes, you get the show notes. Also, youtube.com/targetinternet. This is now a video, as those watching can tell. Those that listening can't. But yeah, please subscribe to the channel. There's, as well as being the podcast, and then we've got all our Q&A videos. So there's loads of new video content to take a look. Thank you very much, Kieran. Thank you very much, Louise. We'll see you again on the Digital Marketing Podcast.
Please subscribe for more videos like this and visit targetinternet.com for more free digital marketing resources.